We're going to look at how to mix drum and bass. Now there's key differences between drum and bass and other genres that you definitely need to know about, and I'm going to go through them in this video. Mixing drum and bass is slightly different to mixing other genres. Obviously, sound fundamentally is the same. I love the science of sound. It is always going to stay and operate the same way, but the structure and instrumentation of drum and bass means that it is a faster pace than other genres. It's very bass driven and it has breaks, and those things alone mean that you are mixing drum and bass slightly differently to other genres. Beat matching at high speeds. You've probably heard, if you're a fan of drum and bass, the classic tempo of 174, and drum and bass usually sits between 160 and 180, but more so around the 170 to 175 beats per minute, and that's the speed of the genre. And because it's that fast, it's actually more beneficial for you to count in double time. So instead of counting 4 beats, you would count in 8 beats. To show you the difference, I will count the beginning part of this song in half time, so 4 beats, and then when it drops onto the drums, I will count in double time, or 8 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3. When you're counting slower genres, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. When you're counting faster genres, it's more beneficial for you to do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can cycle through your phrases and align them, and you're feeling the rhythm and the speed of the track. So experiment with those 2 different ways of counting and see which is the better method for you. Unlike techno and house, rolling basses and breaks can really clash if you've got too much information in the picture. Those low basses are very, very low, and low frequencies can be quite problematic. So when you've got a lot of information in the picture and you've got at least obviously 2 tracks together, but you've got more than 2, maybe you have a 4-deck mix, well, now you have to carefully EQ and really balance the EQs so that you're not overpowering the listener with information. And that totally depends on the structure of the track. If you've got a very jungle break heavy tune, then you're going to have a lot of breaks in the picture, and that can be quite challenging if the DJ has more than one of those tracks, mixing them together with lots of different percussive elements going on. So pay attention to the contents of the tracks that you're playing. If there's lots of atmospheric elements, then you want to balance out those atmospheric euphoric sections, because too much euphoria of different keys and harmonies and instrumentation can confuse the listener, and I go into all of this in my drum and bass DJ course. So if you would like to know how to mix the different subgenres of drum and bass depending on the instrumentation and how the tracks are structured, then check out the course linked below. But to give you an example, let's mix these 2 tunes together. We're going to be balancing the low frequencies or turning one of them down entirely so that we have a clear bass picture on the dominant track, and then we will balance the mids and the highs so that we have a nice clear picture for the listener that's not overpowering them with information, and that is dependent on the structure and the instrumentation of these tracks. We'll have a listen and watch for the fine-tuning adjustments on the EQs dependent on what instruments are coming in and out of the picture. In those 2 tracks, there was a lot of euphoria, and so yes, we're cleaning up the low frequency, but we are definitely balancing the mid-range band, especially as this track went into a kind of euphoric breakdown. And that's a specific part of that track that we're paying attention to, is the euphoric breakdown, lots of musical atmosphere going on. And if we're on a drop section of now the incoming tune, which is the dominant one in the mix, we don't want to be overpowering empowering the melodic elements in this track with the euphoric atmospheres of the outgoing tune that's on a breakdown. So take it out of the mix in the mid-range slightly, and that way you now have your dominant tune with a little bit of atmosphere in the background. Drum and bass DJs, as with most modern DJs, but drum and bass DJs especially, will typically use the channel faders to mix their tunes together. Old school way was using the crossfader from left to right. The problem with this is that you only have A or B. You don't have the option of deck C and deck D. And so even if you set your channels so that 2 of them are on the A side and 2 are on the B side, you're still going to have to control, say this is the B side, you're still going to have to pull one of them down so that only one is coming into the picture. And then if you want to swap them over, you're going to have to swap like this using the channel faders. But if you also want to swap over to this side on the A side, you're going to have to pick one there, and you can see how that's getting a bit messy by being restricted to only side A and side B. When you come to do multi-deck mixing, it's a bit tricky because you've now got, say, 4 channels but only the option of left and right. And what I would recommend as a drum and bass DJ is disable or place your crossfader in the middle, disable it completely, keep it so that all 4 channels have audio coming out, and that way you can mix using your channel faders and you only have to go in that vertical up-down motion, and you know which one's playing audio out because it's the one that's up at the top. Double dropping is dropping 2 tracks together on their drop sections. They don't have to be the first drop section, they can be the second drop section or a combination of the first and the second. It's very common in drum and bass to double drop tracks together because it's maximum impact, and it's stylistically part of what a DJ does in drum and bass. Now, it's not an isolated technique for drum and bass, so if you do ever find that you're mixing a different genre, why not double drop some techno? Why not double drop some house? Just to show you, we're using the same EQ technique that we did before, balancing the EQs, taking out the lows and only having the lows in one of the pictures. You can switch over the lows as you get to your double drop. So you're timing both of your tunes so that they drop together at the same time. And obviously you can do that on 2, 3 or 4 decks, so you're going to really need to pay attention to the EQs if you're doing that on 4 decks at once. Now, the other key difference between drum and bass and 4/4 genres is that there are massive energy shifts. You have huge drop sections and then you have very minimal and empty and sparse breakdowns. And so those huge shifts in energy are what really pull the crowd in because you have tension and release. But with those shifts in energy, you need to treat the breakdowns and the empty material sections very differently to the drop sections. One way that you can beef up a breakdown section is to mix it with a drop section. That way you're getting the bass and the hard driven energy from the drop, and you're layering that with a breakdown of the other tune, which is very empty but enough atmospheric going on so that the 2 tunes mix together and you retain that energy throughout the set. And maybe you don't want too many breakdowns or empty moments of nothingness. Maybe you don't have an MC. So an MC would typically do some vocal work in a breakdown section to keep the crowd interested and entertained. And if you don't have an MC, take a drop section of one tune and play that in the breakdown of your other tune. Maybe that's a tune that's dominant in the mix. It's entered into a breakdown. Now you don't want the crowd to be looking around waiting for something to happen. Give them bass-driven drop section of your incoming tune in the breakdown section of your outgoing tune. So here's how this tune would sound just standalone by itself. So imagine you've got no MC, the crowd is full, and now this is entering into its breakdown.
make a life for myself.
As soon as the synth comes in, it's great, but in that interim period, that's where you would normally hear an MC kind of hype up the crowd, just say, oh, how's everyone doing? Well, I'm not an MC, so that was clearly a bad impression of an MC. But like, Oggy, 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 or something else. But I'll never be an MC. One of the benefits of having an MC in the drum and bass genre is so that they can fill the gaps where there's not much going on. So that entered into a very sparse, empty section, but we have a tune here that we can send to the drop as this goes into the breakdown. So understanding that drum and bass has massive energy shifts will help you to control your crowd's energy. Fast-paced genre mixed on multiple decks, very quick speeds and very short tracks now with intricate production, lots of percussive elements, huge rolling bass lines. It makes it very difficult for the DJ to be doing anything other than mixing your tunes together and using the EQs to balance. When it comes to accessing the effects panel on the beat effects and the color effects, you need to be very careful with what you apply and where you apply it in your mix. If you've got multiple decks on the go, really, primarily, you need to be focusing on your volumes, on your channel faders, which is the volume of the entire track, and your EQs to be balancing out the intricate details and making sure that your bass lines are not overpowering each other. So a lot of your attention is on those fundamental elements in order to make the mix clean. You can start to access the beat effects and the color effects, but you need to make sure that you're accessing them at the right times in the mix and making sure that it's smooth and it's not taking away from the complexity of what you're already dealing with. So the first port of call for any effect being added to the mix that is probably not going to destroy what you're doing, it's only going to emphasize what's going on, is the high and low pass filters. And the reason being is because they are filter sweeps based really on EQs. So you're already dealing with EQs, and a high pass filter will basically allow high frequencies to pass through. So it's almost like you're isolating this top band here. So by doing that, you're not adding any intricate repetitions or echoes or anything else into the mix. In a way, you're making it cleaner by high passing to the right or low passing to the left. So let's do a high pass filter to emphasize the tension before a double drop. So you're doing your typical EQ mixing there, but you're also emphasizing that tension by removing all of the lows from the picture by doing a high pass filter leading up to the drop and then bringing it back to 12 o'clock on the drop so that we can get that hard impact energy. In essence, what you're doing there is you're emphasizing the huge contrast in energy between the build-up and the drop, which is something that drum and bass is renowned for, those massive energy shifts. And you as a DJ emphasize those energy shifts by taking it even further with a high pass filter. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like. If you'd like to see more from me, you hit the subscribe button. And if you'd like to watch my mixes and my live streams, join the channel. There's a channel membership that you can hit join, get some exclusive access to my Twitch live streams, which are recorded and I put them in there for you, and also other stuff, because by the time you watch this video, maybe I'm not doing Twitch live streams, maybe I'm I'm touring the world. Whatever I'm doing will be in there in the channel memberships, so check them out and drop a comment below to let me know what you thought to this video. The more you comment, the more you interact, the more it helps the channel grow, and I'd much appreciate it. And thanks for getting to the very end of the video, and I will see you soon. Bye!